There are concerns over the status of monetary assets and liabilities of the Nigerian government. Tonight, our focus is on getting the accurate picture of how much the country owes, especially to multilaterals such as the World Bank. Babajide Ogunsowo, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, is here to share the facts about existing and new loans from the World Bank. Babajide, it's great to have you again on the News at 10.
Good evening, Ayotunde.
All right, let's get into it very quickly. How much does the country owe the World Bank, and is there anything at all to worry about?
First is, with the second question, yes, there's something to worry about, and I'll explain that in a bit. How much does Nigeria owe the World Bank? Your first question. The numbers that we have shows that Nigeria owes the World Bank $14 billion. Those are the numbers.
Say that again.
$14 billion.
Okay.
Now, you asked, is there something to worry about? I'd like us to answer that question together by taking a look at the facts in the last 7 years. Because the evidence shows that even the World Bank, if we take a look at the numbers, even the World Bank is now cautious about lending to Nigeria. And I'll explain this. In June 2015, Nigeria's external debt was $10.3 billion. Out of the $10.3 billion, $6.1 billion came from the World Bank. In simple terms, as at June 2015, 60% of all of Nigeria's external debt came from the World Bank. Between June 2015 to the end of last year, 7 years, we've seen Nigeria's external debt more than quadrupled. So from $10.3 billion to $41 billion. However, the World Bank is now more cautious. In simple terms, today, Nigeria has approximately $42 billion external debt. The World Bank only accounts for 33% of those borrowings. So in simple terms, what we are saying is that Nigeria is borrowing so much more, but the World Bank is not borrowing Nigeria as much as it is borrowing. Again, 2015, 60% of all Nigeria's external debt came from the World Bank. Now we're in a situation where less than half, in fact, the numbers from the central bank shows that, and from the debt management office shows that only 33% of our external borrowings as of today is coming from the World Bank. In other words, the World Bank, yes, is borrowing Nigeria more, but it's being more cautious. So Nigeria is now having to rely more on groups such as China and its Eurobond. The World Bank, I repeat, is even becoming more cautious in lending to Nigeria. Those are what the numbers show.
So tell me, have loans been significant to Nigeria's growth and development? I mean, what are the facts concerning that?
You know, this is an area that I've been working on for over a decade, and the numbers shows that the loans are not creating the sort of impact on the growth of the economy. Let's take a look at the exact numbers about why I assert that external loans are not impacting the economy. Look at what's in front of you. As at the end of 2015, Nigeria's domestic debt was 8.8 trillion naira. Between 2015 and the end of 2022, our domestic debt has grown by 151%, from 8.8 trillion naira domestic debt to 22 trillion naira as at today, 151% growth, only on domestic debt. Now, let's take a look at our debt position. End of 2015, $7.3 billion. As at the end of last year, $37 billion. Again, external debt growing by 407%. So keep a look at those two columns. Domestic debt, 151% in 7 years. External debt, over 400% in 7 years. Our economic growth, Ayo, 8%. 8% economic growth only, despite domestic debt borrowing growing by 151%, external debt growing by 407%, yet economy grew only by 8%, and that is according to the National Bureau of Statistics. So the question we need to ask ourselves is that, what exactly are we using monies to do that seems to be unproductive? Because a lot of borrowings have happened, domestic and external, yet the economy isn't seeing rapid economic growth.
So now the government is supposed to save so much money from the subsidy savings. Now, Will this reduce the thirst for the borrowings, I mean, domestic and external?
The evidence shows it wouldn't. It wouldn't because our revenue is not even really growing. And so that is why the government is borrowing. Revenue seems to be growing, but the fact shows that revenue is moving slowly. Again, the numbers speaks for itself. Let's take a look at the revenue of the federal government since 2015. And if we take a look at those numbers again, Ayo, 2015, the government generated 3.4 billion naira, and that's the federal government 3.4 billion naira, according to the central bank. 2016 less, 3.1 billion naira. 2017 even less, 2.8 billion naira. The estimates from the central bank today shows that last year, 2022, we generated 5.6 billion naira. Now, Ayo, that seems to be some good news, but here's the bad news. 3.4 billion naira in 2015 to 5.6 billion naira in 2022. That looks like some good news. 65% revenue growth seems to be good news. The bad news is between that same period, inflation rates 115%. In simple terms, the 3.4 billion naira of 2015 was worth more, or is worth more, than the 5.6 billion naira of 2022. The summary about what is in front of you is, within 7 years, we've seen a lot of motion, but little or no movement. Again, 3.4 billion naira in 2015 as government revenue is worth much more than the 5.6 billion naira revenue we generated last year. So the summary of tonight's discussion really for me is that over 7 years, we've been penny wise, pound foolish, in the words of Robert Button.
I will definitely leave it at that. Babajide Ogunsanya, thank you again for your thoughts on the news at 10.
The pleasure is always mine.